and welcome to Menu Talk with Pat and Brett. I'm your host for this week, Brett Thorne, Senior Food and Beverage Editor of Nation's Restaurant News. Pat Kobe, Senior Menu Editor of Restaurant Business, will be hosting next time. Close listeners of this podcast might be wondering why I didn't say that I'm also Senior Food and Beverage Editor of Restaurant Hospitality. Well, I didn't get fired, but we have folded the content of Restaurant Hospitality into Nation's Restaurant News. So now you'll be getting comprehensive coverage of chains and independent restaurants all in one place, nrn.com. And of course, you can also get great restaurant coverage at our sister publication, Restaurant Business, at restaurantbusinessonline.com. Our guest for this episode is the amazing David Burke, who operates 10 restaurants on the East Coast. That includes the very recently opened SeaHawk Prime in West Palm Beach, Florida. It's his first Florida restaurant. David Burke has been cooking in restaurants possibly since before you were born. He graduated from the Culinary Institute of America in 1982 and became executive chef of the River Cafe in Brooklyn, New York, about 4 years later at the age of 26. He went on to open Park Avenue Cafe, became corporate chef of the Smith & Wollensky Group, opened a bunch of other restaurants in the interim, consulted on a lot of things, and set probably more trends than anybody else I can think of along the way. Cake pops, those are his. Coat hanger bacon, his too. And the swordfish chop and beef tallow candles and a bunch of other things. In this conversation, we talk about his new restaurant, SeaHawk Prime, and then I pretty much let him riff on trends and menu ideas. He gives pricing advice, talks about mocktails and putting cornflakes on cream spinach, and a lot more. It's a hell of a ride that I think you'll enjoy. Now, here is David Burke. How are you, David Burke?
Nice to see you. I'm doing great. Yes, thank you.
Glad to hear it. So you just opened a new restaurant in Florida, right?
I opened SeaHawk Prime by David Burke in Lake Park, Florida, which is in a marina across from Singer Island. So it's kind of part of North Palm Beach Gardens area. North of West Palm, south of Jupiter.
And tell me about it.
It is in a brand new high-rise called Nautilus 220, high-end condominium built in the marina, 330 units. It's got all the bells and whistles of a brand new high-end condo. Where we opened SeaHawk Prime as a steak and seafood restaurant, modern American with my stuff. The next phase is to open an indoor golf restaurant, sporting event space called the Birdie. And then we're going to open a general store, a coffee shop on the front corner. That'll be called Park Avenue Coffee and Provisions. So it's a three-part deal in this new area of this new building in Florida.
And is this your first time opening in Florida?
Well, I opened Smith & Wollensky with Alan Stillman as a small partner in 1997, which is in South Beach, and that was a while ago, and that's still going strong. So I hope we have the same success.
But since then, you haven't had a Florida restaurant since that one.
No, this is my first Florida restaurant as a principal.
Well, you just opened, so you probably don't know how it's going.
This is our eighth day. The building is not quite occupied fully. It's got about 30 people that have moved in. People are closing. The CEO just came through 10 days ago. So, and we're off to a good start. We're doing well. Our reviews are strong. Food. Very proud of what the kitchen's doing, and Andrew Kaplan is doing in the front. We have a good service staff, and we got a great dining room and a good indoor-outdoor bar. So we're looking forward to growing into the space. The initial first week it's going well. I've opened many restaurants. I get a good feel for this location and for this the style of food in which we're doing for this venue.
Is it markedly different from the style of food at other venues?
The decor is fantastic. The ceilings are high, lots of glass. We're in a marina, so the scenery outside is all boats and yachts. We have a bar that has the garage doors, so the bar is indoor, outdoor, lots of outdoor seating. It's a brand new high-rise, so it's very sexy. And the design is beautiful. There's an old boat hanging from the ceiling. There's beautiful artwork. It's cool. You get a cool feeling when you're in it. And the music's good. Kitchen's an open kitchen. There's a salt wall and a private dining room. And it's well designed. The designer was LeMay, Lemay. They did a good job. And I think, and we're in an area where, there's a lot of great restaurants there, but there's a lot of people that want other options too.
And is the food similar to what you've always done?
Yeah, the food, it's very, there's a lot of overlay from my other restaurants. The bacon and the homemade breads and the pastry and some of the signature dishes. Yes, and then of course our dry aged steaks. There's a little bit of a sense of there's a little more finesse on some of the things. There's more elbow room, and because of Pedro and Rob Hamburg, two chefs that used to work for me, it's in Chicago and in New York and up in Connecticut. So I've got two veteran chefs there and two managers that have worked for me in the past. So, I don't have to train from scratch. It's a big deal. It's a big difference. And they're a little bit on the older side, so their discipline is a little bit more of what I expect. Meaning, you ask once and it gets done, not ask 3 times.
That's great. And how many restaurants do you have now?
We've got I think we got 9 now. We were up there for a while, but some of them were consulting things that matured. We closed the restaurant in North Carolina, closed the one in New Jersey, and we're done with the Saudi Arabia deal too. So we got 10, I think, with a bakery. Yeah.
And what is the climate like at your restaurants? The mood, the economy of
Well, and listen, November, December were good. That's promising. New York is first week of January. It's doing pretty good actually. For Florida, we're doing great. Florida, there's a lot of we're brand new, so it's. But in general, we had strong business Long Island, Westchester, up at the Red Horse and White Plains, in general. And I think first week of January is very telling. And we had a pretty good week everywhere. So I think things are good. Prices are high on food, labor's high. We got a market. We got to keep doing our thing. Everybody's in the same boat. We're all competing for butts and seats. So you got to deliver. I mean, it's expensive. Eating out it's not inexpensive. Even I was at a restaurant in my town in New Jersey a couple nights ago, and it's a small little bistro, and I couldn't believe how expensive it was. It was a BYOB, so I mean, I understand you got to charge a little more, but I was like, it's a lot. The food is expensive to buy, labor's not cheap, and so you got to figure your way. You got to. I always feel that you have to have uniqueness. You can be expensive, but the whole menu should be expensive. You got to be able to shop. So we try to do that high low. A couple pastas, a few chickens, a couple things that are under 30 or in the low 30s. Instead of going to a restaurant, all the main courses are $45 and up. The appetizers now, it's hard to find an app under $24.
Right.
I mean, I still think you can make money at an $18 salad. I don't know why it's got to be $25.
I was going to say you would know because
I just feel like people don't you don't realize every time you order something you got to pay 30% higher for the tax and tip, right? And the liquor, a glass of wine's $25.
Right.
So you pay $50, $100 on drinks. It's really $130. So
Right. Yeah.
But listen, it's a business I'm in, so I try to keep that. I try to, luckily for me, I eat out, and I eat out a lot, so I know what the customer experience is. It's not just I don't just work and go home and eat. I eat out, so I feel what the customer feels. So I'm always conscious of, don't try to don't like when you go to a steakhouse and they charge you $6 for béarnaise. I'm like, really? You're charging $65 for a steak. You got to hit them over the head with the béarnaise. I mean, there's got to be a point where you take your foot off the pedal and say, okay, well, let's just include that in the price.
So how do you figure out that math when you're doing pricing in your own restaurants? because you have to make a
Well,
profit.
you know what?
Also.
I've always said this. The rule of thumb is that people want a 30% food cost, or 33 or 32. But when you put percentage is just a basic guide. You can't take percentage to the bank, right? If I buy a lobster and it costs me $50 and I charge you 100, I made $50. It's a 50% cost. I'll take that all day long. Because on the chicken, I charged you $30 on. It cost me 10. I made $20. I got a good, nice food cost, so 33%. But I'm not making enough money. So for steakhouse, if a steak's costing you $20, you don't have to make it 60. You can sell it for 50, right? Because you're going to sell a side dish that costs you $3. You're going to sell that for 12. So, and then you're going to sell béarnaise that costs you $1 for fucking $5. So you got to have the loss leader, and then you have to have the other things that make money. At the end of the day, it all goes into the same account. You figure it out. But yeah, so you can't just triple everything. So you got to be smart. And I learned this from Alan Snellman. We used to have pigeon on the menu at Park Ave Cafe, and nobody bought it. We sold 2 a night. So he goes, "Well, why are you charging $35 for it? Charge 21. It'll make the menu look cheap, and nobody buy it. Does nobody buys it anyway." So you got to play that. If crab cake is your best seller, you can mark that up another $1, and then something that's slower, mark that down $2, and do the same place, but your menu looks better. So you got to know how to finagle.
Well, and how to manage your customer psychology.
That's correct. I mean, but it's still feel good. Right? I mean, people are willing to pay more money for a popular band when they go to a concert, or a popular team, because you're giving them what they want, right? So for an extra $1 for Caesar salad, if it's a good one, people are okay with it because that's what they like. Starbucks is a good example. They pay more for $2 more for coffee because they get something special that they like, and somehow it fits into their budget because they got satisfaction. You have to give satisfaction. You got to meet expectations, and that's the success of McDonald's and some of these others, right? You know what you're getting, you know what you're paying. Might not be good for you, but that's not the point. The point is this met my expectation. So when they go to David Burke restaurant, your expectation is pretty high. You want to see something unique or different, and we got to try and meet that. But we also got to try to meet it without someone saying, "Oh my God, I like that place, but it's so expensive." There's a very good Greek restaurant, I won't mention the name, that does fish, right? And everybody says, "Oh my God, that place is so expensive." But they also say it's very good. So if it's very good, you can be very expensive, but you have to be consistent.
And that's why it is open in multiple locations and is very successful.
Well, you got to protect the brand, and you got to be consistent. And listen, I get my fair share. I get a ding here and there with people where the crew didn't meet the expectation, and that's what we always have to improve. They need to understand that every dish, the temperature, it was at a hot plate, hot dish, go out time. But yeah, I mean, and on holidays we get dinged once in a while because you're doing 300, 400 people on a holiday with a different menu. And you know what? Not everyone's expectation gets met in every place every year. So we focus on those days. We say, okay, make the menu a little simpler, still make it good, price it right, because then you'll have somebody that comes to your place for every holiday because they know they can bring grandma and a kid, and they're going to get seated in the right place, and the menu's going to be fair. And then they'll come back for dinner.
When it comes to pricing, it seems like people are willing to spend more for steak, that they're a little bit less sensitive to the price of steak. Do you think that's true as a man who has been serving steak
No,
for
people. But listen, we got to eat, right? And you got to go on a date, and you got to feed, and you got to entertain, and you got to do the client thing, right? Steak is always that. It's still considered a treat, right? Like a reward, a big steak, right? A ribeye, with a big steak knife, right? And it delivers satisfaction. Yes, they'll pay the $75, $85, but they might not be buying a $250 bottle of wine. They might not be having 2 cocktails. They might have one. They're going to skip dessert, right? Because they still got to eat, right? Like you still need a cell phone, right? You pay for that, and you pay for the plan, but you might not need all of the apps. Okay, they're trimming that, and the stats on drinking with the younger generation have gone down. Wine drinking has gone down. Cocktails seems to be more trendy. But in general, the younger population, nightclubs are suffering. Strip clubs are suffering from what I've read about last week in Vegas, or adult clubs or whatever. And that's just, I guess, people, the younger generation is just has different priorities or different ways of having fun, right? So, but the alcohol sales with younger people, which in general I think is okay. Um, there's more responsibilities, or there's other ways to entertain, right? I mean, if you think about the old days, in order to get a date or meet somebody, you went out to a bar. Now you have the apps, you got the dating apps, you got they got the gummies, they got the other stuff. So all that affects somebody walking into a bar trying to catch a buzz or trying to meet someone. So, things change quickly.
And yet you have adapted. You
We always adapt. I mean, you got to stay young at heart. You got to find out what's going on, but quality and experience and open mindedness. All of this stuff helps us keep afloat and stay trending. And you got to stay young at heart. You got to like the business. You got to and like you got to read. You got to strategize. You got to stay in the game. You know.
So, how about trends like mocktails? Have you put mocktails on your menus?
I'm a non-drinker, so I love mocktails, and I like when I go to a place that has great mocktails. So I'll drink two of them, and they'll cost me maybe $30. I'm willing to pay 12 to $15 for a good mocktail, right? And I just tell them, make me whatever you like, a little more on the acidic side. And I see them, and I appreciate a restaurant that has them. And sometimes I have a Diet Coke. Sometimes I'll have something else, but I like to feel like I'm having an adult beverage, even though I'm not. And something that's a little bit more palatable than water or soda. I'm not really a soda drinker in general, but sometimes that's all I have. So I think mocktails, and the good iced teas, and things that are a little bit. I just had a conversation with my manager. I said, make them for lunch. We're at Park Avenue Kitchen here. I said, let's make a water-based sangria. Let's take sparkling water and load it with fruit for lunch. Add a little bit of the flavor. Put frozen grapes in there and some mango and this and that, and just sell it as a sparkling water sangria. I think that's what a great idea. We'll try.
Or an agua fresca? But if you
I
call
need
it,
something like that, yeah.
but
Because
if you call it sangria, you can probably charge more.
cucumbers in there, maybe some mint, and develop our own secret. And you only got to charge $7, $8, $9, right? It doesn't have to be. So it's like, what do I got to lose? I'll try it. Bottle of water's fine, but that gets boring.
Great.
Make mint and mango water with some cayenne, a little jalapeno in there. So you got some, creative lemonades, creative iced teas. So we can, even if you took iced tea from a decent bottle, and you made 4 bottles and you made a base, and you add some stuff, and you got a flavored ice, a really important, a little unique iced tea for the day. You can shake it with the egg whites and have it like Tom Collins or whatever, and all of a sudden you got some.
That's true.
You got to be thinking.
What are some trends that you are looking forward to, or anything, doesn't have to be a trend, that you are looking forward to in 2026?
Well, mocktails is one of them. I think I'd like to see the comeback of the chicken. I'd like to see that roast. I'd like to see chicken dishes like coco bands, chicken franchise. Some unique Ballantine, like chicken as a surf and turf base. And that's something I've asked my chef to look into. Take 2 chicken thighs, top it with a lobster tail, make it this and that. All of a sudden, you got a surf and turf that's $50, not 80, 90. Right? And we use use a little bit of duck or lamb, pork. Beef is beef. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But we got to give people alternate. Bison we use a lot, short ribs, and also some creative pasta dishes that are simply delicious but have somewhat of a creative twist. And not I mean, we all love the classic pastas, but I want to do something that has some kind of cool crumbs on it, or some kind of sidecar, like a sidecar that comes with the pasta that you stir in by yourself, like a pesto or something. Again, gratins, sabayons, some of the old school bistro dishes. Noodles, egg noodles with a cool thing. Things especially for winter. Things go around, but you can update the classics. things on croûte, like pot pies, you know. Because I would order, like I saw a pot pie dish online today. It was a pot pie cream corn side dish with a pastry dome. I'm like, delicious. Like, and a side dish, if you do cream spinach on croûte as a side dish, you have enough time to bake it because it comes with the main dish. So you can have them all set up and bake a few at a time, and think of and create like our cream spinach down in Florida. We put spicy corn flakes on top, right? Simple, creative. Sounds funny, right? But we
It
we
sounds
coat them with
delicious.
a little bit of chili pepper and lime zest, and we bake them, and they get extra crunchy, and they sit on top of that cream. And you take a spoonful, and you're like, "That's kind of good." There's
Well,
nutmeg on it too, which blends into the green spinach.
so, it sounds like you're just kind of thinking off the top of your head of what you're doing. And that always seems to have worked for you, David. Like you just keep thinking up new ideas and they work.
It's you throw a few things against the wall. You think in your head, you carry around ideas. I write things down. I've got enough experience through the years to know what works, and I've been around long enough to have worked with some great people. And the creative process to me is the fun part. Why? I mean, listen. When I took over for Charlie Palmer at the River Cafe, and he took over for Larry Fortune, I always said, like, how am I going to be different? Right? Those guys are great. Like, how is my creme brulee going to be better than his?
And that was the
Right?
1980s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and I'm like, my creme brulee has to look different, or it has to have a twist. It has to have, and without messing up the original formula. Like, how do you do it? And that's how I've always tried to think. Like, how do I, how do you make yours a little bit different than the other one? Like when I eat a steak and cream spinach, I think it's a wonderful combination that doesn't need to be messed with. Can you throw cornflakes on cream spinach? That's not necessarily messing with it, right? It's not changing it. It's just adding crunch and spice, and that could be easily omitted. But when it comes to some of the other things where you're going to cut a soft shell crab in half and pour it and serve it with flying mangoes, that's when you got to know what you're doing. The riskier you get, the more you got to know. You got to know how to break your fall. You know, you're going to do high wire acts, you better have a net.
Well, you literally have bacon on a high wire,
Oh
right?
yeah,
You have
yeah. That's how we
other.
do laundry in New Jersey.
You've done a lot of creative things like that. You invented the
Yeah.
swordfish
Well,
pop.
listen. I get joy out of that. I mean, you got to have a foundation. It's got to taste good. It's got to look good. It's got to be sensible. But having fun with it is you might have some really serious, technical chefs that think that's too cute or playful. That's okay. But the customer is who I cook for, and customers love that. That's not a listen. I go to Europe and I see my clothesline bacon on the back cover of Time Out magazine. We did something right, right? When
Huh.
people are copying stuff around the globe, same as the cake pops and the salt aged beef and many other things, pastrami
Yeah.
salmon, soy chops. So there's a list of, I was telling a couple of chefs I bumped into at a restaurant, younger guys, about the pork shank and how that won Best Dish in America after the whole executive committee at Smith and Wollensky said no one will ever eat pork in the steakhouse in New York. And we opened Maloney and we put it on anyway. And it won Best Dish in America, USA Today. And that was a great triumph for sticking to your guns. I'm the chef. I think this is going to work. I'm proud of it. Let's give it a try. And it works.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Always good to talk to you. We go way back. So
We
Happy New
do.
Year. And let's talk soon.
Yes, let's do
Thank you,
that.
Brett.
Thank you, David.